inviting me to come and just open up how we're going to talk today, and I can stay for a bit to hear what people have got to say. My office gets a lot of contact from people about issues to do with the police, and I didn't mention Nigel. That's because the phone goes and we've got a very good direct link with Nigel and other parts of the team here when we do have people contacting us. Some of you here this evening. The main things that people contact me about are around some things around sort of antisocial behaviour of different levels of seriousness, some things around hate crime that people are experiencing in different parts of the constituency, a lot around domestic violence, particularly with younger people, younger women particularly, and underpinning a lot of that is the problem of drugs in the patch, and particularly parents and family members who are worried about youngsters and drugs and people who are being affected with antisocial behaviour and other things of which drugs has an underlying cause. We know that the police haven't got as much resources as they used to have. I wrote to the government on behalf of people here asking, they produced a big report about what they wanted to try and do, and I've asked the government several times, come back to Avon and Somerset, and we're doing some really good stuff, but we need more money. They haven't come back to me yet, but I'm going to keep doing that because I know from the emails, the phone calls of people coming in that it's really important to people. So I'm going to stay for a while and listen to what you've all got to say, and I'll continue to work with the team here and people on the beats to try and protect you and your families and keep you safe and feeling safe as much as we can. And very happy to just listen in for the rest of the evening, and thank you for putting this on today and working to help us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Karen, and thank you for your outstanding support in helping us to get extra funding. It's absolutely invaluable to engage with our local MPs, and you have played an absolutely stellar role in being able to do that, so we do appreciate it. So first of all, thank you very much for coming this evening. It's pretty chilly outside, so the fact that you got away from your lovely warm rooms to come here is very much appreciated. So we have the Chief Constable, Andy Marsh, and we have Chief Inspector, Nigel Colston. And basically what we'll do is I'll talk for a few minutes, probably too long, so and then Andy will we'll talk about the big picture, and then obviously the expert in the room, Nigel, will talk about actually what's happening in your patch. And then we're very open to take any sort of questions that you want to give. I hold these forums quarterly because it's really important that we're here available to local people. One of the things that I was often told is that we never see either any senior police officers or police officers in our area, and that we sometimes want to ask them questions. And so that's what my job is. My job is to make sure that you can ask those questions. Now, very clearly, I am not a police officer. Never have been, never will be. I am your Police and Crime Commissioner. I'm an independent Police and Crime Commissioner. There's only 3 of us left now in the country. All the others now are affiliated to political parties. And I was first of all elected in 2012 and re-elected in 2016. And one of the things that I have been very clear about is that this police service, Avon, Somerset Constabulary, belongs to you. It doesn't belong to me, nor the Chief, nor the government. It belongs to you. And therefore it's only right that you can ask the questions about what you want from your police service. So that's why we are here. That's why we are here today. So I am the bridge between from local people such as yourselves and the police. So the questions that you will be asking, I will be very conscious of, because one, if you need to ask questions, it probably means our communication hasn't been great because you have to ask the questions. There's things that you don't know. But we will be able to understand about what are the things that are the burning issues to you. Now, I'm sure you would all say, what would you like from local police? And you'll all say, I want more bobbers on the beat, and I want all our police stations open. Yes, well, me too. But we're not in that position. So what we've got to do is work with the limited resources we've got and make sure that we spend the money as effectively as we can, making sure we try to deliver what you want from your police service, which is making sure that those officers that we do have within neighbourhood policing teams are on the street where you see them. So we have nearly, across the patch, we have nearly 700 police officers and PCSOs. And I'll talk about funding later on, but because we've been allowed to raise the council tax precept, we've been able now to ring fence, so there will be no cuts to our neighbourhood teams, because that message has come across really clearly from many of you that that's what you want to see on the ground. And so that extra money that we've asked, and I got the approval today from the police and crime panel that we will be asking for an average D-band householder, we're asking an extra £1 a month to contribute to the police. And from that, we will ring fence neighbourhood policing. 2, we will recruit 300 additional police officers. And 3, we will make sure that every school in the Somerset has a named PCSO or police officer, so that link between schools and police can be really worked on, and making sure that we can do a lot more with our young people. So one of my responsibilities is to create a police and crime plan. That's my statutory role. So we went out to consultation with over 3,000 people, and the priorities that were set were to protect the most vulnerable from harm, to strengthen and improving local policing teams, to making sure the police have the right kit, the right culture, the right people, and then finally that we work with other police forces and other local authorities, other partners, because it doesn't matter who solves your problem, you want your problem solved. So we've got to make sure that we work very closely together. So let's just concentrate on protecting the most vulnerable from harm. This is all types of abuse, whether it's domestic abuse, whether it's modern slavery, whether it is those who are mentally ill. And you will know that from 2016, the Chief and I said that those who are suffering from psychotic episodes will no longer be taken into police cells. They will be taken to a health-based place of safety. It's Dickensian that, if you think about it, that anyone within the NHS, after all, if you have a broken leg, you don't get, sorry, we haven't got any beds, but if you could go and doss down at the police station, when we've got time, we'll bring you back. Actually, if you are suffering from a mental illness, what more frightening place is there to go into a police cell, to hear that clunk of that door and that isolation when you're already suffering from a crisis? So no longer do we do that. And also we jointly fund mental health nurses now in the control room at Portishead. So we've been able to divert a lot of people away from the police and working with getting much more help within the care system, within the crisis teams and everything else. So we've been able to avoid people getting involved with the police, because that's the last thing people want to do if they're suffering from mental health. It's also today, just to flag up, that it's Time to Talk Day today. And it's a time for those who have got the time to just go out and maybe have a cup of tea or drink, or just give some time to someone who just might be feeling very vulnerable, very down, and very isolated. Because for so many people that you talk to, that opportunity just to have a 5-minute chat with someone who's not being judgmental, who is just there for them, can help a great deal. So if you have time tonight, and maybe just go and find someone that maybe no one's spoken to, maybe they haven't spoken to anybody for days on end. Maybe this is the day. You can also do it tomorrow, just because it's the day. Let's not keep it to that. So one of the areas that we need to explain, and the Chief will do that, is that over 80% of police work is non-crime. So that's looking at child sex exploitation, that's looking at mental health, that's looking at about how we can work with people who may not want to come to the police. These are people who are victims, who may hate the police, those children who are being groomed. And the police need to work with those, as with mental health. And there's a whole range of areas that the police now do, where some of you may say, the cynics amongst you will say, but that's not police work, why are they doing that? But actually, if we can work with domestic abuse victims who maybe are in who have serial perpetrators, we can work with them to explain some of their behaviours. If we can stop them being abused, then that's got to be better than just fishing them out at the bottom of the river when it's too late. So that early intervention is something that the police and your neighbourhood teams it's really important. One thing I do want to show you, I want to share with you a very short film, it's only a few minutes, and it's called Kaylee's Love Story. And it's about a 15-year-old Kaylee, it's a true story, and she thought she found love. And after 15 days, things had changed forever for her family. Now, it's a bit grim, okay? So if any of you are affected, some of my team will be able to help you if you want to see them afterwards. So I just say that because it may strike a bone in you. So if we could just see a few minutes, and this will just explain to you a bit about grooming and exploitation.
I'll never forget the first time we met. We clicked right away.
Hi, love.
Hiya, Mum. I could talk to him for hours. It was as if we were old friends. Am I right to say it Katie's tomorrow?
Yeah, come on.
Mum and Dad wouldn't understand. They don't know that he's different. He wants to meet for a few drinks. He treats me like an adult. I think he might be the one. I really do. Mum and Dad wouldn't understand though. They don't know that he's different. He wants me to meet his friends, so he must be serious about it.
Get off me! Go away! Help me! Help!
I could stay here forever. I really think we love each other. But Mum and Dad wouldn't understand. They don't know that he's different.
absolutely shocking. And I wanted to explain to you what grooming, something that you might read about in the paper, what grooming actually looks like. And sometimes, like in this case, it took 15 days. Sometimes it can take years, whether there's someone who's creating a relationship with maybe your child or your grandchild, and they can create a relationship until they can trust them, where they think that the child trusts them enough. Well, that child's not going to come and report it to the police. So we work very closely with Bernardo's so that they can work with those individuals. You can see within 15 days, no organisation could have done anything to have intervened with that. And I just wanted to show you about and illustrate some of the real vulnerabilities that are, particularly our young people. I mean, when my kids were young and they were upstairs in their bedroom doing their homework, I knew they were safe. Probably weren't doing their homework, but I knew they were safe. Now, of course, with phones, with social media, you don't know that. And it just doesn't happen to a type of family. All our children, we've all grown up, and there are always at some point our children that we all are vulnerable at a certain moment. And if someone can pick on us at that certain moment when we'd like to be loved, you can see what can happen. So apologies if you've been shocked, but I just wanted to explain to you about what grooming looks like. And that's why it has been made, that's why it's the very first priority for the police, protecting the most vulnerable. And I don't think any of you here would disagree. So the second priority is strengthening and improving local policing teams. And that's even more important now because we've lost 655 police officers over the last few years. We've had to fund £65 million savings. And that's why I was pleased that the government has given us the flexibility to raise the council tax precept. But obviously I would have liked it to have come from central government because I know that families are finding it really tough to pay any additional money. It's not, I'm very conscious that it's not just the police, but it's also all local authorities which will be raising their part of the council tax. But it's also my responsibility to keep you safe. It's my responsibility to make sure that the police are funded as much as we can. So we still have a deficit for next year of over £4 million, of which we will be looking at back office and restructuring to be able to find that and working with our local forces. So that is the reason that we are supporting and protecting our neighbourhood policing, because our local beat teams are the ones who actually can solve a problem before it gets too big, can work with you and create that trust and confidence that you have in the police. And if you think about it, police can only police in this country because you trust the police enough to do so. If they don't have guns, and they have, so unless the majority of people actually did what the police wanted to do, it would be impossible. So most of us only go along with the police because we trust and we have confidence in them. So that trust and confidence is really, really key, and I think it comes from you having relationships with your local neighbourhood policing teams. So I just want to finish the last two priorities. Is making sure that Avon and Somerset have the right kit, the right culture, the right people. So you'll notice that all PCSOs and police officers now have cameras, body-worn cameras, absolutely essential. In fact, I put it down as their best friend because it can now capture what they see and can be taken particularly to court, but also it can reduce the number of complaints. But it also gives confidence because obviously everyone now has phones with cameras and they can record. And sometimes you can only see some things. You need two different sides of the picture. And I think it's really important that you see what the police see through that body-worn camera. We also need to make sure that the police look like your community. So at the moment, if you think about that a third of our children in Bristol are BME, black and minority ethnic, you will realise that we need to do far more for our police to look like that community. And therefore we are spending a lot of time and resources in trying to encourage more people from underrepresented communities to come forward and be part of the police, because they need to be part in order to create that trust and that confidence so that the police look like you in the neighbourhoods. And finally, to work together effectively to make sure that where we use your money, because I'm very conscious that it's your money. I never forget that it's your money. So we need to work with local authorities, we need to work with fire. Avon Fire have now moved up to HQ in Portishead, so we now have a joint police and fire headquarters, and there's a lot of work that Andy's doing with fire in order to be able to make you all safe, because that's what we're trying to do. And whatever uniform, as I said, whatever uniform, you want your problem solved. And working with fire and to a certain extent ambulance, we can try to create a really strong and robust community. And where we have strong and robust communities, then that's where we will have a dip in crime. So where we have things like neighbourhood watch, community speed watch, where people come forward and stand up and be part of the independent advisory group, which can tell the police where they can get better. Whether you are part of one of our police panels, or whether you are looking to the way that the police use police powers, such as the use of tasers or stop and search. Whether you are an independent person who comes in and look at the way that police are handling their complaints. All the time, I'm trying to bring in more and more of the community to come and scrutinise the police, because it goes back to the fact it's your police service. So, thank you for coming tonight, and I hope that we're going to have a really interesting debate. First of all, then by Andy, and then by Nigel, and then very happy to take questions. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Sue. So my name's Andy Marsh, and I'm your Chief Constable. The emphasis being on the your. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about what we stand for, a little bit about what's happening in policing, and then what we're doing about it, and then hopefully we'll hear from you. But I'm acutely aware it's Thursday night, it's cold, and the people here have given up their time to come and speak to us. And I suspect there are some people here who are interested. There are some people here who help and want to help some more. I'm certainly thinking about the locally elected members, and there are some people here who are cross, maybe because we haven't done everything we should have done. So I hope that I'm going to get to all of you on those issues. I should start with some other thanks. Thank you for coming. Thank you to my staff and officers for doing such a brilliant job. They care as well. But there are some people in here that have helped shape policing. And so Carol, who I worked with when I was a chief superintendent here for 2 or 3 years, just after the millennium, at that time, and I'm sure things don't change, Carol, was a vociferous critic of the police, but in a positive sense, because you wanted us to be as good as we could be. And the same goes for you, Chris. And actually, those of you in locally elected positions, whether it's councillors or MPs, sometimes your local police are as good as you want them to be, because actually, it's really important that Karen has a relationship with Nigel, so that actually Nigel is responsive to the things that people are telling you are bothering them about these communities. You want the best for the people you represent. We want it as well. So it is a thank you for those people here who do something in their communities to support those people who might be lonely or on their own. And it is a thank you for those people who stand up for other people and say, "Oh, you, in Somerset, this is what you should be doing." Now, actually, Carol, my recollection of those days were that one of the things you were saying is, we want you to be our police, but that police station is like a castle, and you come out of it and you do your work and you go back in. Actually, a really significant step change was for us to let people into policing and for us to welcome that, but also to get out there and police by consent. I think neighbourhood policing has been one of the biggest changes I've seen in my 30 years as a police officer. And actually the role of the PCC is to be that voice of the public. So Sue's here to listen, she sets the direction, and it's for me to deliver. Now, I want the best police force for you. I want us to be outstanding. And I want us to be outstanding because we deliver outstanding services to you. And we can't do that through being all things to all people. We have to prioritise, and I'm sure you understand that. But it also has to be an outstanding police force for the people who work in it, because I want to keep them, their mums and dads, sons and daughters. They need to flourish. I need to get the best out of them. So some of the things that are happening in policing is that since I became a police officer, for example, some bright spark invented the internet. Someone invented mobile phones. I've just been out on patrol with 2 officers for a few hours, And the job that they're doing as police constables is so much more complicated than the job I did when I joined. It's dynamic, it's complicated, it's unpredictable, and it's dangerous. In an hour I went to 3 jobs. A missing person, a man from a mental ill health institution had gone, and one of the worrying things it does is set fire to things. So it was important we found him. That was a high risk missing person. They found him. We took him back. The second thing is that